Welcome to Valuable Coaching with our guest, Chris Tamas.
All right, welcome to Valuable Coaching. We're lucky tonight to have head coach of University of Illinois, Chris Tamas, with us. And we'd love for you guys to be following us on Instagram at Valuable Coaching. Look for our content on YouTube at Valuable Coaching. Make sure you hit subscribe and like our videos. Ask us questions on there. You can find us on Facebook. You can also listen to these long form interviews on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. But for now, we're going to go ahead and get a little bit more of an introduction to Chris Tamas.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce you guys to Coach Chris Tamas. Coach grew up in Santa Barbara, where he was a fantastic athlete. He went up to the University of the Pacific, where he was a setter and All-American. That's where he actually met his wife, Jen Joins, now obviously Jen Tamas. After playing at the University of the Pacific, he went and had a stint with the U.S. national team, played there for a few years, also played professionally in Europe. When he was done there, he wanted to get his coaching itch, and he started out at UC Riverside. Then he went over to Minnesota and coached with Hugh McCutcheon over there. Then went down to Cal Poly with Sam Crossan, a former Tiger. Then went over to University of Nebraska with Coach John Cook. And then now he is the head coach at the University of Illinois. He has three wonderful kids, Jimmy, Josie, and Carly. And then, like we said, he's happily married to Jen Tamas. So, Coach, it is a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate what you guys are doing for the volleyball world and coaching world. So I'm happy to be on here.
All right. Well, we're hoping it keeps growing. And, we think that, coaches like you have a lot of valuable information to share, not only for volleyball coaches, but for youth coaches of really any sport. So we've really been starting off each conversation with our coaches with finding out how you kind of got your start in volleyball. A lot of us have similar stories that volleyball wasn't really our first sport. So we'd love to hear from you how you got started and how you found your path with volleyball.
Yeah, definitely wasn't mine either. I grew up kind of playing everything that I could get my hands on. And that's even from a young age, just going to the park and shooting hoops and stuff like that. And I guess it was one day in middle school where the volleyball team literally needed two more people to field a team of six. And so my buddy and I, it's like a 4-week season, 5-week season. And my buddy and I like, yeah, we'll do it. Why not? And I guess at the time I had pretty good hands. So like, okay, you'll set. And I think we probably did everything, but that's what I remember doing. And then, that was the 7th grade year. I didn't really play much after that. 8th grade year, kind of the same thing. The 8th grade year was Todd Rogers was my coach, as well as Jason Donnelly, who's still currently at the high school that I played at, middle school, high school that I played at. And then just kind of went from there. And then after maybe my freshman year, I started playing club, I think into my sophomore year. So I didn't, maybe when I was 16, just played club for a few years, and I got picked up by UOP, and then the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. And then, Coach, when did you realize, obviously you had a professional playing career, which is very unique, and you played with the national team. When did you realize you wanted to coach for a living?
It's a good question. I had the idea I was going to play as long as I could. And then maybe my second year playing overseas, I had a little bit of time on the national team with like a junior national team and some World University game experience and stuff like that. And I was actually ready to be done after my second year and go back to school to get I was a Kines major at UOP, and I was going to go back and get my occupational therapy degree or physical therapy degree, and just kind of run my own kind of workout facility and stuff like that. And then I got a call from Hugh, and got asked to train with the national team. Had a really good summer with them, and went another, I guess it was 2-3 years with the national team, and ended up not making the Olympics in 2008, but continued to play professionally. But in between those years, I was still looking for something to do. And Ron Larson, who was my assistant coach while I was on the national team at the time, and he was my first boss at Riverside, he was like, hey, we run these camps, Governmental Squared. I think you'd be a good coach. Why don't you go try doing those during the summer? So I would travel to all these high schools, and I would coach for 4 days at a time, maybe 6 or 7 weeks, 8 weeks during the summer. and just started coaching these teams, and just kind of started liking the concept of coaching. And then when the Olympics was over in 2008, Ron Larson started coaching at Riverside, like I mentioned, and he asked me if I wanted to come and be his assistant coach. And again, I just kind of went from there, and that led to Minnesota back to Cal Poly. Cal Poly led to Nebraska, and then Nebraska led to here. And 13 years later, here we are.
That's great. Yeah, we've only had a couple people on here who really have extended professional playing career. How do you think that's impacted you as a coach, and how does it help you, prepare players who may be able to go do that? And how's it?
Yeah, I think, probably prepared me more for life than anything. And even during this time, this last, I don't know how long it's been with the pandemic now, 9 months or 10 months or so, whatever. It's
too long.
It is. Yeah. And, the feeling of this is a lot like playing overseas. You go overseas, you play in these places where you have no, you're not going to go out in the middle of nowhere at a town of Turkey, which, I played in this town where it's like, you're not going to go out to go hang out with people. There's just no one to hang out with. And so you have that sort of experience, and you really get to know yourself, and you really got to figure what you're about, because otherwise you're just going to drive yourself nuts. And so I really just took the time to try to, do the best I could when I was over there, teach myself some languages, some hobbies, some culture, and it was really good experience. And I think that just translates to, when we're doing this, when we're coaching, and, yeah, we can help with, getting connections overseas, or we can help with, what you want to do, in your international career. But, I look at coaching more as like, hey, this is kind of the step we have, at least at this level, where we're taking this is the first step. They're going from mom and dad to us into life. And I think that's where maybe that experience comes up, and where I think the experiences that both my wife and I and my staff has had can really help these young women, transition into a successful life, not just with volleyball in their careers, but with, future relationships or kids, or whatever their dreams may be beyond volleyball or beyond Illinois.
Yeah, Coach, when you're looking at your resume, you can tell right away, man, Coach Chris has worked for a lot of really legends in our sport. Could you just briefly talk about, all the coaches at the collegiate level that you worked under, and maybe something that you took from them that now that you apply to Illinois?
Yeah, I get that question all the time, and I'll just start real quick with who I work for. I already mentioned Ron Larson at Riverside. I went to Minnesota from there. I was actually interim assistant coach. My first boss at Minnesota was Laura Bush. She was the interim head coach, and she had been in the game forever, both as a player and a coach. And she was fantastic to get to learn a lot from how the business works of collegiate sports, how to run a program, how to recruit. And then Hugh came in. I worked with Hugh for about 6 months during my last 6 months there. Sam had called me in that first year and wanted me to come after the first year I was there. I gave Hugh a 2-year agreement, though, that I would be there for 2 years. So I said, Sam, if you could wait. This is Sam Crossan, who I know you guys know. He was my assistant when I was at UOP. Sam was the head coach at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I said, if you can wait for a year, we'd love to come back to California, potentially raise our kids and help out the program at Cal Poly. We did that. So we went to Cal Poly. We were 2 years into Cal Poly, and I get a call to the Blues saying Nebraska's looking and your name's on the list. And we literally just remodeled the whole house. We thought we were going to be there for quite some time. And I get the call for Nebraska, and did well in the interview. And Coach Cook, wanted me to come out and be with them. And it's kind of one of those programs you couldn't pass up. And so we went out there, had a really good first year, won the national championship in 2015, 2016, made the Final Four. And then same thing with a little over 2 years in, sit on my couch at 10:30 at night, reading emails. And I get an email from AD here, Josh Whitman, to say they're looking for a head coach. And same thing, interviewed well and did a good job to get the job, I guess. And got the job within 48 hours. So then we're out here. So, but from those coaches, I learned a lot, and a lot of it, I think, my main answer has been, which is still is true to this day, is all those coaches were really authentic to themselves. They didn't try to be someone else who they weren't, and they're always learning. They're always trying to get better. And Ron is different from Laura, who's different from Hugh, who's different from Sam, who's different from John. Everyone had their different approach, and it all worked for them because they were authentic to who they are. And so I took that as the biggest lesson. And of course, we try to grow and learn and try to become better coaches each day. But I don't try to deviate from who I am. I don't run in the gym and start yelling and screaming, because I don't yell and scream in my regular life. So I'm pretty calm. I'm pretty I'm demanding, but I let them know what it takes to win. But I think to be authentic is a big deal in our profession.
That seems to be such a common answer. I mean, answered differently by each coach we've talked to. And I think it's something that Kevin and I have kind of discussed, is that we see a lot of club and high school coaches who don't come across authentic. And I think, they may know a lot about volleyball or the sport that they're coaching, but when they're not genuine, those players just don't seem to buy into what they have to tell them. And it makes it tough to see. So it's a great takeaway, that all those coaches can have different styles, and they can all be very successful because of that authenticity.
Yeah, I think just another quick point I would like to make is, you don't have to play the sport to have been a good coach. We all played for Joe Wortman, who played baseball, and but Joe was great at managing us, and he was great. He was a good example of what it's like to be a great father and husband, and to show us how to be a family man and do his job. And so I don't think you necessarily need to be this have this experience. It helps. I mean, it can help in certain situations, but coaching is a whole nother beast, and it's a whole nother thing that you just have to learn. And that's why not all great players make great coaches, because you can't. It's just a whole nother skill set that you have to learn. You can't just walk in the gym and say, "Hey, do it like I did it," because it doesn't translate that way. So I think that's an important point to make.
Yeah, definitely. I agree 100%. So when you're now looking at recruits, what are some of the main things that you're looking for? Obviously you're competing in the Big Ten. You need big, strong athletes, but what are the things that you're looking for that help separate the players that you want to bring to Illinois, that are kind of on the same level physically, but, maybe you just see something in them that separates one from the other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, I think a lot of things about that. Like you said, there's going to be some physical aspect that we need out of them. And I don't say I know there's some coaches out there, like, you got to touch 10 feet. Like, that it's nice if you can do that. But I think volleyball is, kind of this cross between, being powerful as an athlete and being skilled. And there's somewhere where that meets. And if you're really skilled, you can be maybe not as great as an athlete, and you kind of maybe tip those scales a little bit. And so we're kind of looking for that in general. Obviously, we'll develop skill as time goes on here. But yeah, you're going to need the athlete. I think it's super important that they understand how to work hard from day one when they get in the gym. And I think that's, everyone would like to think they work hard. But I think that's different when you can evaluate them either on a playing level, or I like to show up to practices a lot to see how they practice. Are they coachable? See how they are in these moments. Maybe some of the intangibles that all the coaches talk about. Are you coachable? Can you listen? Are you a great teammate when maybe things aren't going great? And so we look for all those things, and we want to have. Obviously, we'll develop those skills. We'll talk a lot about them. It's different when once an athlete shows up, because everyone is a top 50 ranking or a top 100 ranking, and they come and they're all in the same gym together now. And how do you manage that as a team? So. Yeah, just in terms of what we look for, hard workers, really good teammate for sure, and really capable of having really great communication is also what we look for.
Yeah, I think when I study your program, one thing that's unique is you guys kind of have the package deal with the dynamic duo where, your wife was an Olympian. You both went to University of Pacific. You both played professionally. And I've noticed wherever you tend to go coach, whether it's Cal Poly, whether it's University of Nebraska, now at Illinois, she joins your staff, which is awesome. And I think it creates that family environment. But what is it like going to work with your wife every day? And what's the advantages having her on the staff?
The other question I get all the time, it's great. It really is. And people are like, oh, you guys don't fight or, whatever. I was like, no, we don't. Like, we come to practice and we deal with what we have to do at practice. We come home, we got 3 kids to manage at home, 3 kids to coach at home, so to speak. So, the time that we have to be coaches together is that time in the gym. And then, we'll, every now and then we'll have a conversation over after the kids go to bed or whatever, but it's not 24/7. Like we kind of compartmentalize that area in our lives that when we're in the gym, we're coaches, we come home, we're parents. And then of course, as all coaches know, you're going to have the time where you're thinking about the team and, how to deal with situation X, Y, Z, but she's really good at, at all those situations, which is why she's an Olympian. She's a great, all those things that I just talked about, hard worker, really was a great teammate when she played and a great communicator. So she's really good at talking about those things as well when we're giving that message to the team and how to do that here or anywhere that we've been, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be there at UOP while you were there. And one thing I'm curious about how you maybe address this with your players, but, coming in as a freshman, and having a senior like you as an All-American, you treated us all with kind of equal respect, all of your teammates. And how do you kind of relay that to your players now that you want to make sure that, no matter what standing you're at on the team, that you're all teammates, you got to work together. How do you kind of create that leadership from the top down from some of your older players?
Yeah, I think it's just how to do it. I mean, it's how to do life in general. You're going to treat everyone with respect and how you would want to be treated. That's how my parents raised me. And like I mentioned before, I'm not a yelling and screamer because I don't want to be yelled and screamed at. That was me personally, but okay. I think you just start, you're going to model what you want the rest of the team to do. And then after that, you're going to try to catch, people doing it right as it goes along. And hopefully that just kind of becomes infectious as time goes on. And then we noticed that we talked about recruiting. We'll get on the road. We'll notice who are great teammates and everything else that we've been talking about. But I think, maybe this leads into the talk of culture and creating the culture and being able to sustain it, being able to walk the walk and being able to just kind of keep coaching it as games, win or lose. I think one of the better quotes I've heard throughout times of coaching is either you win or you learn. And of course you can win and learn at the same time, but there's no losing here. We're just another opportunity to learn and get better and be better teammates, be better people at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. And Coach, you've been at it for a while now, coaching. What would you say is one of your most fulfilling parts of coaching? What gets you out of bed to coach and work with these young ladies?
Everything, really. I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed the game since I kind of got hooked back when I was, I guess what was it, 16. I played in high school, or middle school, but I got hooked when I was in 16. Played beach volleyball the whole nine, and I just always enjoyed the community and the camaraderie of the sport, and how supportive everyone is, and just, at any given level. And even, this pandemic has shown now everyone's coming together. We're doing these podcasts. We're getting on the phone. We're talking about how to continue with sport or how to make it better for athletes and better for future athletes, and kind of where the game has started and where it's gone. It's been phenomenal. And, just really have a passion for the game, continue to have that. Think the game can teach you lots of life lessons. It's a true team game, which life is. And I think that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, it's been I've been so pleasantly surprised to see how open people have been to wanting to talk to us and, give us advice and then ask us questions as well. And do you think the sport is headed in a good direction? Do you think it has good footing right now? And do you think it's going to continue to grow not only on the women's side, but also men's volleyball as well?
Yeah, I think you're seeing some good things. I know there's some programs, unfortunately ours being one of them back in 2013 that gets dropped. Stanford in this year gets dropped as well. But there's a rise. I know the HBCUs have picked up men's volleyball. The Carolinas, Conference of Carolinas has picked up men's volleyball, getting huge and, D2, D3. Like to see more D1 programs, but I understand the nature of the beast there. It's volleyball is a very accessible sport. You don't need much to, you need a net and a ball and a square, however you want to draw it, or a rectangle, I should say, and some people to play. So whether it's 2-man on the beach or 2-person on the beach or 6-person, and I think it's an accessible sport. I like to see it be more accessible, just in terms of, I know club's a big deal, but I think there's some great opportunities just to pick up a ball, call some friends, and get out there play. So I do see it growing. I do see it continuing to grow. Maybe with some of the contact rules of volleyball may not be so great during this pandemic time, but I think once we come out of this, I think it'll be we'll be better for it.
Yeah, you obviously did a good job climbing up the ladder. I mean, every stop you made was another notch in your career, and then you finally got an opportunity to be a head coach in the Big Ten. You obviously hit the ground running right away. I mean, you guys made it to the Final Four right off the bat. You had some success. You're continuing to have success. What was the transition from like being an associate head or being the first assistant, and then bam, you're running a top 10 program? What was the transition like?
It was like drinking from a fire hose. Gosh, you guys have run some of your own programs, so I'm sure you have a list of 10 things to do, and by 5 o'clock at night, you haven't gotten past number 2 because all the problems that number 1 created, or maybe the questions that needed to be answered from your number 1 question of the day. So it gets tough, and I think I was on another panel of coaches last week, and we just talked about having the ability to have mentors out there, have the community out there, have other coaches that have that experience willing to share, to have help doing this. I learned a lot watching the other coaches, the other great coaches that I've worked for and been able to, and that I played for back in the day. But you don't know the inner workings of everything until you actually get to do it. And you just have to keep learning and be hungry to learn and just keep one day at a time. And obviously you have to have a long-term vision, but one day at a time is a good way to do this.
That's great. When I had kind of a little bit of a break between when I was coaching and I was just teaching, and when I got back into coaching, I actually found an article that was really about how you were running practice. And it talked about kind of running shorter practices during the season that kind of more simulated what the length of the game. I don't know if you could touch on how you structure practice, and is that something you still like to do, is kind of run a little bit shorter, more intense practice in order to try and simulate some of that? What was your?
I do. Yeah, I think a little bit of that depends what kind of team that you have. So the first years that I was here, we had 9 players that were in the gym. I think actually 8 because we had one that was out with an injury, but we had a spring that was just 8 players, and you can't do much to duplicate 6-on-6 volleyball with 8 players. So it was a lot of skill training, and we worked on that. So no doubt you need skill training and you need the time to develop that skill. But once we're into team competition mode and Big Ten season's intense, every game that you're going to have is going to be a battle. It gets tough. What's the ratio of work during the week versus the weekend? And so I just I'm a big John Wooden fan. I know he was a fan of the 90-minute practices for basketball. And I just feel that it gets our players engaged a little bit more than saying, hey, if you had 1,000 reps to get it right, what's your focus on rep number 1? If I only gave you 10 reps, you're focused on your rep number 1 is a little more 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 10 is a little more intense than if I gave you 1,000. And no doubt, the setters and passers of the world need those reps, but your middles who jump all the time, it's tough to get a lot of jumps in there. Your outsides, 6 rotation outside, it's tough for them to get a lot of jumps in there. So we break up practices accordingly, but once we're in team mode, yeah, we like to try to keep it under 2 hours if possible, or right around there.
Yeah, I read that, and I thought for me doing high school, it worked perfect because 2 hours is such a long time to keep these kids engaged after they've been at school all day long. And so, I mean, I can just tell you, I read that, and I'm a big John Wooden fan too. And I like to use this pyramid of success, but I hadn't seen much about that 90-minute practice. And I think it really motivated my girls to work hard during that time, and then know that they had an extra half hour of, time to work on homework, to go decompress, while other teams were still in the gym. So
yeah, and no knock on any coach who likes to have the 2.5, 3 hour practice. You can totally get stuff done during that time frame. I just feel like it's like you mentioned, they do need the time to get their studies done, to have maybe extra half hour to themselves, or even just extra half hour to go eat as a team. I think is a big deal as well. So yeah, I'm sticking with it for now. Maybe I change a few years from now, but right now it's been working okay.
Hey, we want to take this quick opportunity to thank our sponsor, One Stone Apparel. They've created this awesome shirt for us. They're very easy to work with. They do custom artwork, and they have a huge variety of artwork too. So check them out at onestoneapparel.com, or email Dave at onestoneapparel.com. Great place to work with, great material, and hope you guys will check them out.
So kind of a 2-part question for you, Coach. I think what's fascinating is the Big Ten is interesting because you really can be a spectator of every program with the social media, the coverage you guys get. Like, watching your press conferences is very easy for a volleyball fan. Watching Coach Sheffield at Wisconsin, Coach Cook, it's all available. So as a fan out in California or Florida, we can study your program pretty easily. And then I also noticed when you guys, I feel like a lot of you coaches in those programs are kind of type A personalities and your voice is heard. I guess my question to you is, what's it like during those conference meetings when you guys all meet and like someone like a Coach Cook goes like, he'll say it and he believes in it, that he wants to see women's volleyball be a spring sport, and he'll give every reason why, or I remember when the COVID hit, some coaches had opinions like, let's play right now. And some said, let's play later. And then I also read a lot about sometimes the schedules in the Big Ten get a little moved around due to football, and you guys getting TV coverage. What's it like being at those conference meetings with all those personalities? And do you guys navigate pretty well together? And can you share about that?
Yeah, we do actually. Again, I just go back to the the sport in general and how we were all raised in it. It's relatively small, and as it gets bigger, you don't want to get the big ego that goes along with it. Of course, you, like anything else, you can, but I still feel like everyone's still pushing for the betterment of the sport, and yeah, we have like you said, Coach Cook wants to move it to the spring. Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and now we get a chance to do it. And unfortunately, how it's happened, but we get a chance to do it in the spring. And if coaches have liked that training block in the fall, now in the spring, and can we push? And does it work with TV and all this other stuff? So, it's their ideas that get thrown out there, and everyone's pretty respectful of them. And again, it's a big reason why I fell in love in the sport in the first place, that we have this type of dialogue and we're able to put out our ideas and hopefully come to an answer that keeps pushing the sport along and keeps expanding reaches and so on and so forth, keeps growing the game.
So one thing, you talked some about culture already, but during this time of COVID and even when you have a tougher season in all of your years coaching, how do you deal with either individual players or teams that are just really feeling, stress or being anxious about, practicing, about games? how do you deal with those, the team dynamic, and then sometimes just the individual dynamic of having a player who's, just having a tough time adjusting to, college volleyball life, where you got classes, you got weights, you got practice. There's a lot of expectation, especially at a big school in the Big Ten, to perform.
Sure. Yeah, everyone's going to be different in that regard. And again, maybe it's a little bit where the recruiting becomes a bigger issue, and how to maybe filter some of those players out that have some of those intangibles, that are able to handle the pressure, able to handle the workload. And no one's ever truly going to know it until they actually step into it. But, hopefully we ask them enough questions that's going to show they're at least capable of learning and adapting. With that being said, it doesn't always work out that way. And like I said before, you're going to have, your whole roster is going to be full of top 100 recruits. Everyone's used to having play time. All of a sudden, you got to move into that concept of, hey, we got to do what's best for the team, and we have to talk. Like you said, we talk about that in our culture. Like, this is what it's like being on a good team. This is how, we compete in the gym. You push each other. And, competition breeds excellence, and everyone has a role here, and we just got to make sure we keep hammering that home. And, it's a big deal to set that culture. It's a big deal to keep talking about it. Big deal to work through it as a team. As you mentioned, big deal to also handle, individuals too. So I check in with our players. Our other coaches have their positions they work with, so they're tied to, and they check in with them as well. But I think, being good about culture is a huge deal, and because we're all talented, so we got to have a really good team culture.
Yeah, Coach, I've noticed following your program, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you've hired 3 assistants. Mansfield stayed on with you for a little bit, then he decided to go to Washington. What's the process like when you are hiring a coach to help run your program, and how do you go about that? Because you recently hired a new assistant, and how do you navigate through that, and how do you pick someone that will fit in your culture?
Yeah, again, I think you kind of just hit it right there. Is you pick someone that's can fit in that culture, and maybe all the things that we end up talking about as a team. Are they selfless? Are they a great teammate? Can they communicate? And you just try to pick assistants that maybe fill some voids that you need. Rashinda, I've known for a long time. We both played in Finland the same year, and then both started coaching right after that year. But we've been talking forever about, hey, if one of us ever gets a head coaching job, let's work together. Let's do this. And but we're very similar in how we think about certain things, and then at other times we can have a dialogue about what we disagree with, and have an open communication about that. And she challenges me in good ways, same as Jen does, and my new assistant Eli Sharping is also great with doing that. So you look for people that fit the culture, that will help the culture. Obviously, be a great coach in the program, help the players out. But at the end of the day, it's we're with each other maybe more than our family sometimes. So I think it's a big deal how you hire, who you hire, and make sure that they're also bought into the culture that you're building or creating here.
Yeah, from an outsider's perspective, and just seeing on social media, and I know that's not always the best gauge of how life really is, but the stuff that you post, looks like you and your coaches really enjoy being there and working together. And I can only imagine as a player how that's got to feel great that your coaches, really look like they want to be there, be engaged, have fun, and then you're there willing to pass on this knowledge. So, again, from an outsider's perspective, it just looks like a lot of fun to be, part of the Illinois volleyball team, part of the coaching staff. And, I think in following other groups on Instagram or Facebook, whatever it might be, that's not always the case. But, it looks like you guys are really enjoying yourselves.
Yeah, fun's not always the word that you want to be known for. You want to be known for being winners and all the other things. But I think it just goes back to we're all authentic in our own ways, and we do that happens to be good personalities, and we're able to hang out, outside of volleyball, have a good time, talk about life. The same as we talked about, we want to model the behavior that we want our team to have. And we do that authentically, even better. And it's been great. It's been with any of the assistants that I have, there's lots of good coaches out there. I had my fair share of time being assistant as well. I know how to fill that role for sure. I just think if we can get a good, maybe the word that gets used that I didn't like before, but I totally understand now, is if we can get a good family atmosphere going, I think it's a huge deal. And I think we've done that here. We have been doing that here.
If you could give some advice to, either young coaches or even kind of newer club directors, what kind of advice would you give those people right now who are trying to start off coaching, start off growing the game of volleyball? What do you think you can tell them right now that would really help take them to the next level of their journey on this coaching journey that we're all.
Everyone's going to be at a different phase in their development. There might be some great coaches who maybe aren't great. If you're on the club side, maybe like you said, club director may not be great business people, or so on and so forth. And I think you just need to really again, just kind of be aware of who you are, keep seeking to understand yourself, and ask questions, but surround yourself with people that are going to help you out in doing that. And if you're a coach that's running the program solo, like you mentioned before, man, there's tons of info out there right now. Not only, with this pandemic stuff going on, but even before that, there is tons of podcasts, there's tons of YouTube videos, tons of books out there that just have, so much knowledge passed down from, coaches, not even within their sport. I read a lot of books that have had nothing to do with sport. It has, maybe ex-Navy SEALs, maybe, business leaders, so on and so forth. And you just start to pick up all these things that are important, and then you try to implement them as best you know how. And I just think, the capability of learning is huge. I think if you're just getting into it, I think coaches have a tendency to want to, say all this knowledge that they have rather than just let their athletes do it. So I'd recommend to say, hey, maybe set up the drill and then let your athletes do it, and then just say something a little bit, and then let them go again and let them kind of figure it out themselves. Not to say we don't have influence on it, but the more that you can get them into kind of, the concept of having a passion for the game, the same passion that you have, that's where the good teams come up. And going back to our times at UOP, it's like, we had a passion for playing when we didn't have practice. Like, we set up nets on Brookside Field and played out there. So, or, breaking into main gym and having a Sunday open gym. So it was just kind of one of those things where if you can get the passion going for your own team, I think your team would be a lot better for it. And just get out there and try to learn as best you can.
When it comes to young athletes and coaches, we've kind of been trying to find out what coaches' feelings are on athletes playing multiple sports when they're, in middle school, high school. We understand if you're going to a Big Ten school to play volleyball, it's probably going to be hard to not just be focused on volleyball. But, what are your thoughts on athletes in younger ages playing multiple sports, and really, like you kind of just said, just letting them really play and kind of figure some things out on their own without having to do volleyball 12 months out of the year?
I like multiple sports a lot. I don't know if I'm speaking from my own experience in that. I was able to still do everything. I played, I went to a small high school. I graduated with 18 people in my senior class, 106 my whole high school. So if you didn't play a sport, they didn't have it. So I was the goalie on the soccer team my senior year. I played basketball my whole time as a high schooler. I dabbled a little bit on the golf team when I was there. And then I played volleyball, of course, and I did other things. I didn't see that as a detriment to my development. And I think now you get into this whole concept of whether it's the club that you play for or AAU team or whatever that you're on, we need to get reps. We need to do this, 24/7. Like, sure. Like, if you have that much of a passion for it, I think it's fine. But I also think it's important to let these kids do what they want to do. And if they have a passion to play something else and play basketball or, run track or do whatever, I think it's great. And I encourage it. I just had a conversation with one of my incomings and she's like, can I play basketball this year? Do what you want. If you have a passion for doing it, go out there and do it. And then once you're here, obviously they're going to be playing 24/7. So, but if they want to do it, I see nothing wrong with it. I know coaches get worried about injuries or, like I said, trying to get better by getting more reps, but I don't see it that way. That's just me.
Coach, I think it's interesting that you alluded to that about the recruiting. We talked about that a little earlier. Is what is maybe something that you look for a recruit that obviously we talked about you want them to be 6'7", or not 6'7", excuse me. You want them to be 6'2". You want them to touch, I don't know, are they touching like 10, 11 feet at your level now, or?
Yeah, you can get some. The highest toucher on our team is touching 10-8 right now. But
yeah, so obviously we get that. You want that, but what is that? Maybe that thing that if you're sitting as a viewer right now and you're like, all right, I want to go play in the Big Ten, or I want to go play for Coach, Thomas. What's something that maybe you look in a gym when you're in Kentucky at JOs and you're like, oh, that kid just did that and did that trait that you might give her a second look just because of something she does?
Yeah, you're probably looking for consistency of skill. If you're kind of trying to break down intangibles a little bit, you look for a consistency of skill. So maybe, like I said, they may not be jumping out of the gym, but if they can pass really well consistently or serve really well consistently, that's a big deal, and I can't tell you how many highlight films that we get where people are like passing free balls. Like, yeah, you should be able to pass a free ball, So what can you show me that you're doing something different than everyone else is doing, whether that's, exceptional range if you're a defender, or like I said, maybe you're just really solid passer. And usually they give the highlight film, and the next question I ask is, say, give me a game film. And then I think I mentioned it before, but just the intangible, how you are as a teammate and how you are as a player that I may potentially have to coach, because we get, when we go to these JOs and these big events, you see that kid or that athlete in that same in that environment where you've got 60, 70 people around the court, whatever the number may be, and it's loud, it's energy's gone, but how are you when it's Tuesday morning and it's you're 6 months away from season? I still need that athlete to be just as motivated in that environment as they are when it's let's say in our realm 5,000 fans and trying to win a Big Ten title. That's where you get to be better at this sport, not by showing up when the moment's huge. You do it by making the moment huge every single day that you step into the gym, and you try to push yourself and your teammates to get better along with you.
Do you think that's something that's been harder to find over your year? I mean, you've been coaching now for a little while. Have you seen maybe some motivation drop off with some of these athletes, or are the top athletes still always willing to work hard, throughout the whole year? And can you find those intangibles, still easy enough? We've been finding some people talk about, a little bit of a kind of change of mindset, new generation. Have you been finding that, or?
That's a good question. I see it as there's actually a lot of good kids out there, and I think the difficulty starts to become who you filter out, and to try to recruit against. We're probably in the 70 teams, 80 teams. They can go anywhere. That the parity in our sport keeps growing. You have obviously the Big Ten's been doing great, the Pac-12's been doing great, but you got your Creightons, you got your Marquettes, you got Colorado State. You've had all these programs that have done well over the course of the years, and they get good kids too. So yeah, I think it's more like you need to find those kids that have that, and I think they're out there. And I think the way the club world is drawn up right now, I would probably change a few things out there in it. I think we got to reduce the amount that they're trying to pay, so we just get more accessible to more people. And I know that some of that money's wrapped up in tournaments that they play and everything else, but I would like to change that to more of a regional model. But I do think it's out there. There's some really good club coaches, really good club directors out there. And they're getting good kids. They're getting them trained up well. So when they transition to us, there's a lot of it's just about getting them to understand the other stuff that we've been talking about, culture, team, how to, I think maybe the difference, one of the bigger jumps that they have to do is they maybe play in a club environment. They have 3 practices a week. Now you got to do it 6 days a week in our environment. And I think that's probably the toughest transition for them. But once they get to that transition, then it's a lot better.
Yeah, for me, that's all I got for you. I mean, Coach Miles might have more questions for you, but we'll do the rapid fire for you with the questions. But before he asks another question, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. I remember when Miles and I talked about doing this, we're like, oh, we got to get Coach Tamas. He'll be the best. And one thing I admire about you, Coach, is I never played with you. And I always felt that I played with you because we went to the same college. And I don't even think we were close at the ages we were there. You were kind of long gone. And you always came back. And you always like, okay, who is this kid? I was a little kid from Hemet. And you're like, all right, I'm going to talk to this kid. And you made me feel like $1 million. And then, I'll be like coaching in some community college gym and I'll look up and I'll be like, there's Coach Tamas, and you're taking notes. And then we're having breakfast the next day and you're like, hey, what do you think about this? And you were just a great mentor to me, and I'll never forget that. And when I coach, I always think that. And when I'm around younger coaches, I'm like, you got to do it like Coach Tamas did it for you, and I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And I really appreciate that you're on the show. And I'm your biggest fan, as you know. I'm always rooting for Illinois.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah.
You're doing good things.
Again, volleyball is one of those sports that given me a lot. And if I can give it back to you, KP, or Miles, or anyone out there, I'm an open book and happy to help people as much as I can, as much as I know how. You got a passion for the game. That's where we'll meet. Well, the meeting of the minds will end up coming. So, and I don't see it as I don't know everything. I never thought I did it. I think volleyball or sport, not just volleyball, it's the never-ending journey for to get better or and perfection. I don't really like that word, but just to get better every single day that you're out there, and whether it's learning from you guys or watching a high school practice or a club practice, you pick up stuff everywhere you go as long as you're willing to learn and listen and just become a better coach or a better person. So appreciate the comments, KP, but staying humble over here. So I know that.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have a great mindset if you're going into any gym and looking for positives and looking for a way to learn. I think everybody, no matter what profession they're in, could take something from that. So it's just a great mindset to take into this. And I loved your quote that you used earlier about winning. You either win or you learn. So, I mean, obviously you can learn when you're winning, like you said, but that's something too. I feel like sometimes is missed now. Feels like winning is what people want to see. And if you're not, then it's a pass, and it's just not.
Yeah. Really and to that end too, I think about that quote too. And it's like, well, winning can mask a lot too. If you win, sometimes a lot of problems can get swept under the rug. So you still got to, again, just kind of look for anything that can creep up on your season or in your players' mindset. If they win a couple matches, they might think, they're the real deal, but that may not be the case. There's a team out and wherever that's could beat them any day of the week. They still got to strive to get better every day. So I think that's a big deal too.
All right. Well, we'll try out this kind of rapid fire. So if kind of in 3 sentences or so, if you can answer these, we're just going to go through. I think we got about 5 of them.
Sure.
Just kind of get your quick thoughts so we can pull these out later on and use them and send them to you so you can use them. How have you used this time with some lockdowns and some different restrictions on playing to try and grow your team?
And just that, I didn't worry so much about volleyball. I really wanted them to understand themselves as people as a person and themselves as a teammate and become a better team.
How important is it for high school student athletes to do strength and conditioning to become college athletes?
I think it's important for them to really understand the basics. I think the number one thing that I hear from my my strength and conditioning coach, they don't do it properly. And so she has to reteach a lot of things, or teach them in general how to do it correctly before she adds weight onto the bar. And so it is important, and it is important how to do it correctly, not just go out there and throw a bunch of weight on the bar and hope you get bigger, faster, stronger.
All right, we kind of went through this, but in a very quick synopsis, what would your ideal recruit be?
Hard worker, 100%, great teammate, really good at communication, and really eager to learn.
And then what's your best memory of coaching?
Gosh, I got a lot of them. I've been fortunate enough to have been around a lot of great environments, and the 2018 Final Four run, just kind of the whole stretch was special. The championship in 2015, but even I go back to my days in UC Riverside. We were 5-26 my first year, and the first kind of set of wins that we got that were like really big wins. I remember how stoked those players were, and it's that feeling, like you said, what gets you out of bed. It's that teaching someone how to play the game at a high level, and it's much more than that. And I had a lot of great moments, but those are a few. But I still remember a lot of ones that you maybe most people wouldn't think of. But those are them.
All right, I guess the last one would be, what's really just your favorite part of coaching?
The people. It's like we mentioned before, volleyball is a team game. Life's it's a lot of ways. You don't get to go through life by yourself. You need a lot of people to help you out. And I think volleyball as a sport has a great culture, and happy to be a part of it. So the people, definitely the best. And, that goes to our administration here at Illinois, and really feel like we're in a great place that really fits our values, and with our family as well. So the people, not just in the sport, but here at Illinois as well, have been fantastic.
All right. I want to just say thank you again so much. We've been pleasantly surprised how, like you said, the volleyball community just wants to continue to grow the sport, is willing to come out and talk. And, we're happy to be able to try and start something new that's a little bit different. We're not just dissecting the game, but we're trying to help give people a focus on coaching, and how parents, coaches, players can all be more prepared for whatever their next step is in the sport. So thank you again so much. I've always appreciated your leadership, and it's been great to see you, move up the ranks. And then, I, like Kevin, was rooting so hard, for Illinois when I saw they made all the way to the Final Four. That was just it was a great feeling. So,
yeah. Well, again, I appreciate what you guys are doing, not just for the volleyball community, but for other coaches out there, and whoever might pick this up. It's a lot of great info. I'm sure you've mentioned people that you talk to, a lot of great people you're talking to. So everyone's going to be a little bit different. We're all going to be, we're all raised differently, come from different backgrounds. So I feel like you can get a lot of good stuff out of this, and hopefully this and others that you've done. So appreciate it, guys, and happy to help in the future if I could.
All right. Well, thank you so much. All right. Again, you guys can find us on YouTube at Valuable Coaching, or listen to us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. And we're going to continue to bring you more great episodes. And thank you again so much, Chris, for being on with us.
And follow Coach Tamas on Instagram, Jen Thomas, and the Illinois program. It's a good watch. Trust me, it's good stuff. You'll get to see Jimmy at its finest, his son.
Yeah. Great family.
Appreciate it.